Once again, welcome everybody to another episode of Dr. Homebrew. We are back here with Travis from Brew Strong. And yes, of course, we have a double IPA, which I was just in the other room complaining to my wife. I'm like, I need to get out of this show.
Yeah.
So fast because I already have acid reflux.
Yeah.
I'm already going through it for some reason. And then now this is like, I've never really felt it this bad after like beers. I'm like, oh shit.
I recommend Gaviscon.
I can't do it. I can't do it. So, I mean, you know,
JP, I love you too much to comment, man. I do.
Hey, man, you know what? We all age. You know, we all get old. That's what my therapist told me, and I said, "You're full of shit." I said, "There's no." I said, "I'm like 26, bro. What are you talking about?" And she's like, "No."
In my head, I am. In my self-image, I don't feel like I'm almost 60.
This is weird. Like, I've been thinking about this a lot where like I think guys and girls are different in the way that we think about ourselves. I feel like guys will always think that they are younger than they are.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Look younger than they are. But I feel like
100%.
I feel like women always feel like they're older than they are. And I think that's why guys get into a lot of trouble sometimes where you're like, oh, you know, I'm 47, but that girl's 30. What am I doing? What am I looking at? What's going, you know what I mean? Whatever, right?
And it's not like men are, at least I don't, for me, I'm not deliberately trying to think that I'm younger. My self-image is like I'm 20 years younger than I am.
Right, exactly. And for me, I'm like, you know, fatally online. So I know what's going on in pop culture. I use the cool lingo. I'm like hip. I got friends that are 10 years younger than me when I play video games. And I'm like, yeah, I'm 36. Sure, dude. You know, I'm the same age as these kids. Actually, and they act older than me. I'm like, oh man, you don't know what Skibbity Toilet Riz is, you motherfucker. And I do. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. You know, watching Coachella. By the way, if you don't know, if you're listening live, otherwise you'll never get this. Coachella is broadcasting their sets for both weekends on YouTube for free. You can check it out.
Oh, really?
It's cool, yeah. And
that's how desperate they've gotten, huh?
Yeah, so I'm looking at look at these. I'm like, damn, dude, I would have so much fun. That'd be great. I'm like, wait a minute, I am almost 20 years older than most of these people going to this concert. What am I doing? Who am I? Is weird.
You'd have a good time.
Weird revelation. No,
you'd have a good time.
No. Because here's what we were doing. Taryn and I were sitting on the couch last night watching Coachella, whatever set was going on. And we had a little glass of wine and we're like, this is the best seat in the house. We're going to pay $10,000 for VIP tickets at Coachella. No, man, I can watch it right here. The Circle Jerks did a set. I'm like, I'm watching the Circle Jerks now.
Oh yeah.
In my kitchen. Like, what is going on in the world? Anyway, enough about that. We are here with Travis, and let's see. I guess let's just jump right into it. So we're going to do this beer, then we're going to bullshit for a little bit later. But this is Rye IPA, and I don't know.
If you practice Santeria,
I don't know what this. I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, is this? I never mind. Tell us about this beer, Travis.
All right, so I've been trying to make a good rye IPA, and as you have all caught on, I really don't make a whole lot of IPAs. I make a lot of double IPAs.
Yeah.
So I did bring this one down, you know, to make it double IPA, but not triple IPA.
You sound like you did us a favor.
No, I did the judges a favor who don't want to get drunk while they score my sheet.
Well, yeah,
etc. So rye IPA, I have a strong argument that nobody knows what rye really tastes like. And anyone who thinks it tastes like caraway, I'm going to score really badly when they score my beer.
No, it doesn't taste like caraway at all. That's in bread. Rye is kind of peppery and spicy, but it's not spicy in a caraway sense in the slightest.
See, now I agree. I think I forget what show it was. It was years ago. Some brewers on like saying that rye isn't really spicy. We've just been led to believe that it's because of the hops that we use with it, and it's like the interaction between the two. I think it's wrong too, but sometimes I think it's right.
So the last version of this, I used an intentionally spicy hop, and the beer came out
throwing shit at my cats. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
Whoever you're throwing shit at, I'm glad we get to do this on Zoom. I cry for the days when we were doing this blindly and I couldn't see the
Oh
shit we
God.
were all doing. This is so much more fun, so much more
Yes.
exciting. All right, and JP will undersell it. You got to see some video wherever you catch the video. This is gold right here. Anyway,
Travis, keep it moving, Travis. Let's go. Keep it moving.
I'm sorry, I'm coming back. So see,
I already got it with these two guys. I don't need a third
Well,
one.
his show name is the initials are BS. So just let him go for a while here. It's okay.
My initials are BS too.
Shit.
Hey.
Yes, it has struck me that Brew Strong is BS.
Yeah.
It's a great show. I love the show, and we're doing our best while we don't have Jamil present. But well,
I listen to it. I listen to every episode.
Do you? Oh my God, I'm scared. Sorry, man.
It's hilarious to listen to you guys getting through like 10-year-old emails. I love that.
We stopped mentioning how old they are.
I noticed like a couple episodes back you did, but it was hilarious. 15 years ago, Bob in Covina had a question about IBUs.
Yeah, it was suggested we left that off, and so I left that off. And so back. So rye spice is really it's difficult. It is. Yes, I'm looking forward to the feedback. My sample over here is almost room temp, and it's still drinkable is amazing. But yeah, I intentionally didn't want mine over chilled, and mine after the last show is close to room temp. So yeah. So all right. What's his name? There's a really good Lenny's Ripa, Rye IPA. It's Schmaltz was the
I've had that. It's phenomenal.
I love that beer.
I haven't had it for years. It's amazing. It's like a triple Rye
love
IPA.
That beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do various versions of it, including a Ripa on rye, which is forget about it. But yeah, so it's a style I'd like to brew better, and I honestly, as I've been brewing this version of this beer, I don't think there's a whole lot of rye character in Lenny's Ripa, but it's a really good beer. And so here I'm trying to make something because you can't have something. I mean, because the first thing you get is not spicy enough. 25, and I've sat at tables a few years back, big batch brew bash. It's one style, 100 plus entries here in Houston annually, and I'm across the table on a year when the style is rye IPA, Rye Double IPA, and the guy says, I did 100% rye beer and I entered it, and I was told it wasn't rye enough.
I believe that.
I believe
people don't know what rye is supposed to be necessarily. And honestly, I think, again, we said it already. If you're expecting caraway, just leave the judging to the adults in the room. Step aside. So here's this beer, and hopefully y'all's version is not as warm as my version is, because it shouldn't be this warm, but it's I mean, anyway.
Mine's probably a solid 55-60. It's been out for a while, and I kind of like them like that. And one of the things I like about that is if there's flaws, they come out, and I'm not getting any off aromas or off flavors, first off.
Thank you.
There you go. Well, Char, why don't you kick us off, man? You already kind of started.
I'm happy to do it. And Coop is being a little more thoughtful, and I see him writing things down. I'm just gonna do this off the cuff because that's how I roll.
Shopping list.
Doesn't look as pissed off about this beer as that brown ale, though.
He's drunk.
And I'll start off. I think that rye is one of those things where if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know, and it takes some experience, I think, to understand. What does it taste like or smell like? It smells like rye. It tastes like rye. You can give descriptors like pepper or spice, and until you actually taste the specific parameters of that rye is, you're not going to know. And then once you understand, that's what it tastes like. It tastes like rye. That's what it is. So I think that, to me, I'm getting it in the aroma. I'm getting it in the flavor. Not in a massive amount. And that's always the challenge in these beers, right? Is the temptation is always just to make sure the judges know there's rye in there. So shove a bunch of rye in, like your beer you were talking about earlier, where the brewer made 100% rye,
Yeah.
and the judges didn't get it. And that's, it's not always. Sometimes that's the best way to go. Some categories that works. Sometimes it's not always the best way to go. And I don't know. I'm always one that likes the subtlety of the ingredients there, and it's enhancing the beer, but it's not slapping you in the face. And that's kind of where I think you'll come back, as it's 100% rye. But this, what I'm getting from this is I definitely get a rye aroma. I definitely get rye flavor, but it's not the only thing here. I think it's really well attenuated. I think the rye malt also it doesn't make it astringent. It makes it maybe a little on the tannic side, but not tannic, if that makes sense. It sort of helps dry it out and make the beer seem a little more well attenuated. And that's, especially in a big double IPA, that's often really welcome. It's a good function for this. The aroma overall, kind of marching down the score sheet, I get definitely some rye malt. I get some floral hops almost. Maybe get a hint of caramel. Definitely get a hint of caramel. And the hops blend. I get like some floral, maybe a little earthy hop that blends really well with the malt. And again, I like that in the double IPA, where it's not just. I love hops. I love hop aroma. I love hop flavor. I love IPAs. I love double IPAs. It's nice to have a double IPA where it's not just like you've cracked open a packet of hops and that's what you're smelling. I'm smelling like a full beer here. So I give this maybe a 9 out of 12 for aroma. It's crystal clear, which is pretty cool. Definitely a very persistent low head. It's sort of like a light copper color. Amber, maybe amber's better descriptor than copper. I'm sort of a medium amber. I give it 3 out of 3 for appearance. The flavor, I don't get anything off flavor about this. It echoes the aroma, where I'm getting little caramel, getting some spicy rye malt, but the two are actually combining pretty harmoniously. Where I'm getting some complexity. It's not just rye. I'm getting kind of a medium-high bitterness, not a ton of hop flavor.
I'm just gonna cut in. I rarely do this, but I'm gonna forget before I get to Cooper.
Yeah,
I get a tiny bit, and maybe it's me. Maybe it's these non-alcoholic beers I've been drinking, but on the very end of the palate, I get like we were talking like butyric acid before. I get a little like baby puke. A little bit.
Your daughter's much younger than mine, so I haven't had to deal with baby puke for a lot longer than you. And so maybe I've just kind of forgotten a little bit of that.
I think it's the way that the hops are playing with the rye. I don't think that it's a fault, yeast thing or whatever. I think it's just a flavor profile that's coming in. But I just wanted to mention that before I forget.
Well, I want to thank you before I forget. So thank you.
It's
right. Yeah.
That's good to mention. I'm not getting that. I am getting maybe a little bit of phenol, but again, that's speaking of things that are hard to tell. It's not prominent. Like, I'm not getting the baby vomit, and it could just be an artifact of the rye. A little bit of phenol that I get might just be the artifact of the rye, because rye is a spicy malt. I wouldn't ding it a lot for that.
No.
Maybe not ding it at all.
No,
but I would think that's
my thought process. This long. It took me 15 minutes to find it. So
yeah,
But
I'd give this a solid like 14, 15 in flavor. It's well attenuated. It's complex. It's got maybe go with 13, 14. I'd like a little bit more malt flavor or a hop flavor, but the malt flavor is complex and interesting.
I think we locked in that 15, by the way.
Okay, sounds good to me. Mouthfeel, I give it the standard 5. It's slightly warming. Carbonation's good. Good medium carbonation. It's a little bit. It's not astringent. It's more creamy. Well, it's maybe right in the middle of that. I always hate those two descriptors because they're not necessarily that descriptive. but that's just me. Body is medium high. Overall impression, I give this a 7 or an 8. Yeah, this is going to be in the neighborhood of like a high 30s, 40 for me. It's and I'm glad you mentioned Lenny's triple IPA, because this does it's different. It reminds me a little bit of that beer.
Thank you.
I haven't had it for ages. It's really good.
Me either. I'm a big fan of that beer.
Yeah, me too. But thank you for sharing, Travis. Appreciate it.
Thanks
yeah.
for that.
All right, Coop.
Okay.
Knock it out of the park, brother.
Rye Double IPA.
Hurt me so bad.
The nose there is a light. I guess I call it kind of a grainy, rich spiciness. Not really spice, but like a grainy, rich grain quality that in the nose. That is suggests rye for sure. The hops are citrusy and low, medium low. The esters are fairly restrained in this one compared to the second beer on that last show we had. It's not as much of a fruit ester bomb that we had there, and let some of the other things shine through, especially that grain that you want to smell. No DMS or diacetyl. It seems clean in that regard. And it has a low, smooth alcohol. It's not poking out too sharply, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a sweet beer. Appearance wise, it's a nice light amber, I guess. Deep gold, light amber, wonderful cream colored head, rich cream colored head that persists for a fantastically long amount of time. I think it's from the rye proteins that should be in there, as declared as a rye IPA. I can't assume there's rye in this. We've had people trick us before, but
I bet.
I'm gonna say
You're solid here, though. But I bet
it's coming from the rye. The proteins just gives that nice balance. I don't know if maybe you did some other tricks to get the fantastic head that you have on that.
So that's a Coop. That's an excellent point that we shouldn't pass by. And Travis was mentioning that earlier. Like, making assumptions. If rye is declared, it's okay to it's not an assumption because the brewer told you it's there.
Right.
It's okay to mention that you tasted something like that, but you should never assume that something is in the beer 100% sure when you're not 100% sure it's there.
you gentlemen have made no assumptions all night long, and it's outstanding. I mean, I would have a hard time doubting what you perceive as the beer based on this interaction we're having right now. And I'm just pumping you guys up. I know it's in the beer. I know the beer is a month plus old by the time you've gotten it. And everything you're saying has been so in line with what I've done. Yeah. You guys are outstanding beer judges. Sorry.
Well, thank you. You're an outstanding brewer, Travis. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. That means you need to score me a little higher than
pump it up. Now, when I get to the part on my score sheet where I say, at that point in your brewing process, when you squeezed out your gym socks into the beer, why did you do that? No.
I think it's the rye. It's a little harsh.
There's so getting into the flavor, there's something that just bugs me in the flavor and a little bit going into mouthfeel too. So first, it's got a well-rounded maltiness that expresses nicely as a rye beer. The base is really nice. I disagree with the baby puke, but there's a bitter edge that lingers on the tongue to me. And it might be something from the hops or the.
And this happens while you're sipping on that for a second. This happens to us sometimes where the three of us each latch onto one little thing that we don't like, and it's all different. And if we think about it somehow, it's all going to be related if we can figure that out.
I think what it probably is going into mouthfeel is just a light astringency, something for a little
maybe
over extraction from the grains, most likely. In the sparge,
there's a harshness to the beer.
There's a little harshness to the beer.
I think it goes back to the rye, but our discussion here will educate me on it. And I'll give you all the details to give everybody every detail of everything I ever brew anytime. All I ask is if you brew my recipe, please send me a bottle or two.
There you go.
Or 3.
You can give your email here on the show. which maybe
And these gentlemen,
isn't the spam trap that it was like 20 years ago.
It's BS at the Brewing Network, isn't it? Now?
it's Brew
yes, it is.
Strong. The BS is involved as well, but it's Brew Strong.
Yeah. So yeah, the malt flavors are nice, and the fermentation seems fine. I don't get any fermentation flaws.
No.
You gents have had 3 different generations of the same 001. These 3
Okay.
beers.
Really?
Oh, wow. The same
Yeah.
years. Repitch.
Which one was
every
first?
pitch, every pitch. The wet hop was first, or probably second. I wouldn't do a double IPA first typically. The wet hop was probably second. This was third, and the brown was fourth, I believe.
Interesting.
And I usually go 5 pitches, and then I start over.
Cool.
You used a lot of healthy yeast because there's nothing in any of these that I would consider a fermentation flaw.
Well, our great friend Jamil had this outstanding calculator that is very extremely hard to get your hands on these days.
The
And
Mr. Multi pitching calculator? Yeah.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I still have it on some of my cell phones and stuff. And I ramp up. We go some other time. Let's get past this. I'm JP.
Yeah.
You have a schedule that you keep. I'm not good at keeping a schedule. Best I try. And this is not very strong.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Multi. I've got it right here.
It's Dr. Brew Strong Homebrew.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
Brew Strong.
hops,
We'll be right back.
the hop flavors in this are very light to me. Like in the aroma, the hops are kind of underwhelming, backgroundy, a general citrusy quality. They're not fighting with what else is there, and they're fine flavors, but it's just not enough for an IPA to me. That would be my going into overall impression. But mouthfeel wise,
hops.
yeah,
I got more hops next time. More hops, no problem. I
medium
love that
power
feedback.
nuts
Thank
and
you.
no obvious warmth. I took down a couple points for the low astringency, and but the body is fine, kind of medium body, no obvious warmth or well, there's a little bit of a bite, but no obvious heat or attack in that regard. There'd be really a lot if it had that. So yeah, clean alcohols in there, no higher alcohols, it seems like, to give you that rough bite or heat all the way down. None of these have had that that we had from you in the last show too. Overall impression, hops are just too low for me, but also try to figure out a way to get rid of that bitter edge. You might be over extracting from your grains, whether you're steeping or the mash and the runoff. You want to not over extract too much. Don't let the runnings get below 1008. Some say 1010, and keep your pH not low enough, below 6, and keep it don't let it rise up too high there. Just take out water with grain husk flavor and harshness, and keep the temperature below 168 while you're extracting. So
Hell yeah.
that's the classic feedback on that. I'm sure you probably did everything right, and on a sheet that's what I'll write, but that's the part where like, well, I did all that. What else can I do? Well, maybe it's the something about the grain you're using, the way you crushed it too finely or something. I don't know, because the husk is always going to be there. You can't get rid of it, but maybe using a little less rye in this case would be a trick to get it to smooth out a little bit. There's enough rye in there to me that it's very obvious, and it's more than just supporting here. It's
the rye is there,
very firmly established, and you don't, if it's 30% rye to get there, you might, I don't know what it is, but you might back off by a 10% or
but you will shortly
from there. And but yeah, I landed at about a 32 on this beer. I was a couple point or two lower on Brian's a little generous sometimes.
I'm pretty generous, especially we got your Brewing Network friends here. I'm gonna give you a couple extra points just because.
We do appreciate you coming on the show. I'm an IPA guy. I like my IPAs to be hop. Just give me some nice bright hops in the nose, and it's something's covering it up. It's not like that the brown IPA we had where the middle malts were covering it up.
Yep.
I just think they're not high enough in this case. That's what I would guess. So
yeah, I think it's hard to maybe we talked about it. Maybe I thought about it and then forgot about it again. But I think it is really hard to have a hoppy rye beer. It's very hard.
It is.
There's
It
a
is.
clash.
I don't think those
Yeah.
two things go together very well. I guess we did talk about it. And I think that's where I'm getting that kind of like weird, maybe like meat. I don't know, thing. There's a thing happening. So I think
Umami.
yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Cooper is right. I think if you back the rye down, which again, I don't know how much is in it, and then you can kind of build around it, and I think you can then make up for that loss in rye flavor with more hops. That's my opinion on it.
Oh,
And that's the genius of that Lenny's Rye IPA, that triple rye IPA. It was so delicious. It was really balanced. It was bitter, and there's a lot of hop flavor in there.
Hell yeah.
And, almost no one else has been able to do something like that.
No. All right.
His is not as dry as my beers. I'm sorry.
There you go. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to get into the recipe and far around for a bit. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. Thank you, Brian, for letting me know that I got it right. I appreciate it. I thought about it. I had to think about it. I'm not used to drinking double IPAs, especially not fucking 3 of them. So what do you want from me?
Welcome to lunch.
For next time?
I know,
What you're telling me is for next time.
This is a very special crossover episode, kind of like when the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman teamed up to fight Bionic Bigfoot in in the 70s and helped him get back to his planet and fix his spaceship. It's the kind of shit you don't have in TV these days that you did like 1978.
Yeah.
We've also got ears up in the house here.
That's right.
I mean,
Okay, all right. Anyway, all right. Travis, give us your recipe for this. What was going on in here?
All right. So, well, if you don't mind, I can give it to you straightforward, or I can give you a little bit of progression. This is version 1.5, which means it's my 5th at least iteration of this.
Okay.
And I can tell you what got me here, but also I need to respect your time and respect what people might care about. At 2 or 3 versions back, I couldn't get rye in this beer to save my life.
Interesting.
Like the rye character?
Correct.
Okay.
I was using Breeze, and no disrespect to Breeze Rye, but I was using Breeze. They're probably their rye-based malts. I can go back and look at the recipes, but we don't have time for me to look at 15 different recipes and talk about all this. And so I introduced Sterling hops. And I think when I introduced the Sterling hops is about the point in time that maybe my homebrew shop might have substituted my Breeze Rye for Environment Rye.
So I'm going to back. Sterling is not a very common choice. Why did you choose Sterling?
It's a spicy hop.
Ah, okay. Because I'm not that familiar with it, but it's been around forever. It's just never been in like the top 50 hops that homebrewers use.
It's not in my top 50, but it was a spicy. But it was a spicy.
That's really interesting. Okay.
So I was trying to get the spice character because I went from far too bland, trying to get the spice, and now I think we have a little bit too much spice. Cooper, you're 100%. You're right on it. Backing that down. So, but all right. So back to catching up. 5-6 recipes later. Again, what we get here in Houston is we get raw standard as our pale malts, our easy malt. And I've got almost 10% Environment pale rye, almost 10% flaked rye, and BSG doesn't give all their sources, but BSG also owns RAR. So there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things going on there.
So it's probably, I laugh because it's probably RAR.
Or if RAR doesn't do it, they just decided to private label it. So so almost it's 1.5 pounds of pale. It is a 5-gallon batch net. 1.5 pounds of pale rye Environment, 1.5 pounds of flaked rye, and I come down. I have a 0.5 pound of Environment Cara rye. And the Cara rye, I probably don't want to get rid of, but the pale rye, I probably want to back down on. And where it's going to get a little more fun for some of you guys, and JP is going to be like, I knew it. Where's the hops? I use a lot of Columbus Lupo Max as my bittering hop.
Yep, called it.
Interesting.
I had it written down actually, but I don't want to say it. I had it written down right there, but
It's high alpha. It's pretty clean high alpha. Some of the flavor will carry through. You get some good West Coast flavors out of that. Yeah. But it's just CTZ at a 20% alpha. But then I use a little bit of cryo pop, trying to get more hop flavor without fighting everything. but then I'm Strata, Vic Secret, and Chinook. And my thing about
Strata and
Strata,
Vic's Secret. Okay.
Vic Secret's gorgeous. I love Vic
I love
Secret.
it too. I wasn't getting it in here, but I love the hop. And Strata, we did a single hop Strata show like 2 years ago, and we were not in love with it. But having said that, Strata is one that plays better with others than it does on its own,
So my issue with
in my
Strata
opinion.
is I can't say I agree or disagree. I didn't have that beer. I'm a fan of the hop, but the only time I ever had I did a smash. We talked about this. I do a lot of smashes.
Mhm.
I had a Strata smash, hop creep, diacetyl in my beer, scored a 41,
Really?
got a gold medal in a
Wow.
diacetyl double IPA that was probably pushing about 10%,
Wow.
because you guys know me now. Yeah, but I could taste it. And so I
Yeah.
used ALDC
Yeah.
to try to prevent the Strata from giving me a hop. Strata has been an underkilled hop, I think, and Strata leads to
Why do
yeah.
you think it's under kiln? Just to keep the
Be-
flavor and the aroma character?
Yeah. Well, so we had a show with we had a not a show. My local homebrew club at the time, Kane Island Ailers. We
Mhm.
had Vinny and Jamil on in the
Oh,
middle of
wow.
COVID times. Had just have a discussion, and Vinny was aging Pliny like 3-4 weeks in the fermenter after it's done, and we're like, that blows our
Wow.
mind. How can you keep a hoppy
Yeah.
beer in a kettle that long? It's like I had to let the hop creep play out.
Ah, yeah. Vinny was like the first to discover or really think about hop creep, and that was like the first generation way to deal with that.
Let it age out.
Yeah.
But then ALDC, which is some weird fungal, just blah blah blah. Yeah. Anyway, so now when I use Strata, I always use ALDC.
Right.
So I would love to have tasted the Strata single hop beer you guys had, and if you can think back, I mean, buttery's overplayed. They also throw some butter, but it plays differently depending on the beer. Sometimes it comes a little. People say butterscotch, but no, there's no butterscotch. It's butter. Plus, you also had some other malts in there that gave you the butterscotch. I could be wrong.
My recollection, which could easily be wrong, was that we didn't have a diacetyl issue. There was like just some odd flavor issue, and it could have been a harvest issue from that year or whatever. But to me, I like personally, I like Strata when it's paired with other hops. I'm
Yeah.
not always a fan when it's by itself, but I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand.
So I wouldn't have chosen Strata necessarily for this beer. Vic Secret, I just love that hop. Also wouldn't have chosen it necessarily for a rye beer, but I know there were tasty hops, and I put them in there. And I used the Chinook I used was also Lupo Max Chinook, so it's stronger Chinook. Because I wanted some pine in the West Coast Chinook. I wanted some piney resiny in this beer and some fruitiness underneath it. So I went far more complex than the one should need to do with a rye IPA.
I like the complexity, and mine was already kind of warm. It's warming up some more, and it's really letting a lot of that complexity out now. Because I'm down to like this much of my bottle that so I've what's left is warming up faster because there's less of it left, and I'm getting a lot more hop and malt complexity here.
But I think we all agree that I used too much rye, whereas before I couldn't get enough rye in it.
Maybe a little too much. So tell me, you had like 10% of the
Yeah.
rye malt, 10% flaked rye, and there was pale rye
Cara.
also.
Yeah, if
Cara
you,
rye.
I did not use a pale rye this time. So
Okay,
if you guys get a request, I will share every detail of any beer I ever brew. I don't have that kind of secret. Especially not being on your show. 100% support your listener base. Yeah, so it sounds crazy low. 59% my base malt, my standard 2-row. 9.8% Varman pale rye, 9.8% flaked rye. So I hope you're getting the body of that much flaked rye.
Yeah.
And then what I skipped over is I've been throwing some more carafoam in there, and you guys have liked my head.
I think it's really good.
I've been giving good head. That's good. I've been working on that.
Oh yeah.
I'll give you my address later.
Yeah.
That or I'll Cooper send me over. And then at 3.3% on the Cara rye, and I wanted to use it at 66.5 SRM. I wanted to use a crystally malted. Oh, I didn't say it. Only 4 ounces, only 1.6% crystal DRC. DRC is a
crystal? Okay.
crystal double roasted caramel. It will get sweet. You need to use it lightly, my opinion. Crystal
I've never heard of
DRC
that.
is Simpson's malt. Simpson's DRC. I bet you have. I bet I just
Probably
said
I
it
just don't
wrong.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Simpson's
believe you.
Crystal DRC, double roasted crystal.
Wow.
It's 152. So if I use a lot of it, you'd be getting some stupid raisin in there.
Right. Yeah. Crystal 150 is like the raisin. That's the shorthand in my brain. Is 150 is raisin.
Exactly. Yeah. So only 4 ounces of that.
There's no raisin in here. No.
No. But also the last two beers could both be a touch sweeter. And
I don't know about that. I like it attenuated like this.
There is attenuated.
It's a personal preference. Yeah, if you made it slightly sweeter, it would still be good and it would still be within style. My personal preference, I like it dry like this.
What you're mostly getting out of that DRC is the nice, rich color,
Yeah.
that makes you, okay, this is a rye beer. You kind of maybe expect a little more color with it, where the rye will give you some color, but it's not going to go to amber.
And Char's a big fan of that Lanzripa, and it is an amber-ish. It looks like what I call a Midwest double IPA. I jokingly call it Midwest when you get these very crystal malty looking double IPAs that are old school sweeter. So this one finished at just under 1010. And again, I adjusted it unintentionally, finished at 8.4%. Because my MO is 9% plus on a double
Finishing
IPA.
at 1010 at 9%, that's amazing. That really is. You dried that beer out, but not so dried out that there's nothing left, right? The ones that get down, brewed IPA I never liked because it gets down to like 0.
I made a good one.
Shit, dude.
I thought I made a good one. I want a little body, a little flavor.
It was neat. It was a neat project.
On paper.
It was a great project.
On paper, yeah. Six
I didn't like most of them. I made a good one. I promise you guys. I made a good one.
I'm sure you did.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure everyone else thought they made a good one too.
Thank you, JP.
You're welcome. I'm sure the guy who invented it thought it was really great.
Oh, I bet he did. I've had so many crappy brews, but I made a good one, and I was like, and the thing was, because I used honestly, it was a thiolized lager yeast. It took 4 to 5 months to taste good, and it tasted outstanding.
Gross.
Where'd you get a thiolized lager yeast?
Lunar Crush.
Okay.
Lunar Crush. Yeah. That's the lager. I remember the L and the L. Lunar Crush is a thiolized lager yeast.
Okay.
It threw so much sulfur. Everyone liked it more than I did.
I feel like, I'm not homebrewing as much as I used to anymore, but I feel like Travis is just making up products now. He's trying to like will them.
I would never do that on your show. I have a show to do that on.
No, I got this yeast. It's from it's from the Juniper Collective.
It's from Casper Mattress, the thiolized filling. Yeah.
This it's a lightly kilned rye, but it's also aged in oak barrels, and I'm hoping by the time it's post, someone will do that.
Quadruple roasted heirloom caramel. Yeah.
I can do that on Brew Strong. I'm not going to do that on your show, JP. I'm not going to do that. Honestly,
all right, where are we at with this thing? We got the recipe knocked out. You can tell this is the second show of 3 IPA.
Of the double IPA show. Yeah, it's the second show.
I think you could simplify this recipe. Sometimes recipes are better, simpler, and
same.
The flake dry is good in here. You could probably even just bump that up and drop the pale rye.
I agree with that.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And the hops, it's a wide. You had Sterling and Cryopop Strata Vic Secret.
I dropped the Sterling.
Okay.
Sterling was in the previous. This is Strata Vic and Chinook, and yeah, I agree.
Okay,
I think it's a good blend, and frankly, this makes me think when I start brewing again soon, I am going to think about Vic's Secret for darker beers.
Oh, I love that hop, man.
Everything Australian's amazing, but Vic's Secret is a great, sort of sometimes overlooked Australian hop.
Really?
Well, it's in the name. It's secret.
Yeah.
The Chinook is good in here.
So what's the Vic? Is the Vic got anything to do with
Victoria?
Australia? I was joking, but thank you.
But there was no Simcoe in this one. You had Simcoe and
Yeah.
some other beers you made that
Yes.
would play nice here too.
So gents, I firmly believe that my yeast carries over hop character.
Mhm.
As
I'm
I
sure it does.
repitch.
Yeah,
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you washing it enough? You know, maybe that'll clear.
Oh, I know. My first yeast I pull off as a forced ferment.
Yeah.
And in the core of it, almost not all of it, but a lot of it goes into my next beer. And the rest of it, after I'm dry hopping, that's sitting on yeast that will never see beer again.
Yeah.
But no, I don't wash, I don't rinse. I do a slight rinse. I was kegging tonight as I was preparing for the show. I have to finish cleaning up tomorrow. I pull the heart of the yeast in a quart jar, and it'll get slightly rinsed, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. Basically, what I'll do is eventually I'll separate out how much I need for the next batch.
Yeah.
So I just pulled about 3x what I need for my next batch, and I'll measure it all out on brew day in a couple weeks. But I don't do a hardcore rinse. I don't do any kind of wash.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's a bad idea to do that. It's like a secondary ferment. Like, it's more of an opportunity to get contamination into what you've got than to wash out contamination that's already in there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and just from like a hop carryover standpoint, I mean, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and I don't know what we're going to do. We'll talk more. Actually, that's what we were going to do. We're going to talk more double IPA.
Yeah.
Kind of tips and tricks here for a little bit from some guy who does a lot of them for some reason. Hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. As we wind up the show, we're going to talk to Travis a little bit about double IPAs and maybe learn a thing or two in case anybody still brews them. I don't know. I think Travis is more like Indiana Jones of brewing, where he's just brewing shit that nobody has seen for 5,000 years. You know what I mean? And
if you're not careful, you might learn something.
Maybe. I don't know.
But he's also a little bit like Spinal Tap, like everything must be turned up to 11, you know.
I only sent you guys one of my 11s.
But this goes to 11.
So would it be fair to say that double IPAs are sort of like the thing that you make the most of?
Yeah. We had off the air ish discussion where I was drinking Doppelbocks. I was drinking Belgian doubles, and then I finally had an American Strong Ale that at the time was classified as a double IPA.
Yeah,
arrogant bastard. So the thing that brought me into American styles was super hopped, maybe a little bit sweet, big ass beer. So it was my thing, and it really still is. And you'll probably cut me out of the group in a second here when I tell you that my favorite absolute style is really Black Double IPA.
Wow,
this is where you get
That's
to dump
really
me
interesting.
That is,
and throw these shows away.
That is super. No, I wouldn't waste my time.
There's no no Black Double IPA commercially sold anymore, is there?
No, that hasn't been a thing for like 15 years. I think, right?
You got to make
None
your
good.
own.
Oh yeah, and I do, but no. So I mean, that's kind of my thing. I mean, I love a great big stout. I still love great Belgians. My Belgian repertoire or experience is vastly grown.
I like that. I like that you have a style, and it's like esoteric and weird enough that people are going like, "What the fuck is what are you even talking about?" It's not like, "Oh yeah, what I really focus on is Belgian quads." Like okay, sure, that was a thing.
Yeah, the listeners are like, "What is even happening now?"
You know, Black Double IPA. That is crazy.
I was hanging out with Michelle Wonder up in the Northwest, and she's just the Grodziski queen. She loves the.
I love that stuff.
really?
God, I love Grodziski.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
and she
older
brought us
style
a
than
real-
Black Double IPA.
She brought us a nice
A little.
Grodziski there.
Oh really?
But,
Grodziski is the shit, man. That is so good.
Yeah, I love it.
I have
Well, that's
very
cool.
few Grodziskis.
So give me a couple. Give us a couple generalizations on double IPA. What about? Let's talk about like recipe formulation. Do you have a certain ratio of hops to malt, or do you when you're coming up with a double IPA recipe? How do you approach that? Maybe we can get some tips out of you.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, your gents here have said so much good information on the beers I've made. and you can adjust this. And next show you can say, that idiot we had on last show, forget all that crap.
that
But
Brian Shara guy.
No. I was the idiot on the last show. Y'all are going to be the ones in the next show talking about the idiot. So I was doing 10-gallon batches forever, and I just settled in on use 2 pounds. And that was one of Jamil's shows where he had they were trying to brew a recipe, and one of the brewer, the pros, like, I use my hops. I just use all of it because it's fresh. I don't hang on to a portion of a bag that gets old in the next 3 months. And so I was doing 10-gallon batches, and I was doing 2 pounds, and I settled on 8 ounces bittering, 8 ounces Whirlpool, double 8 ounce on dry hop, 8 ounce and 8 ounce again. And at some point in time, I think I was too fat, so I decided I need to start brewing 5-gallon batches. So I cut it down to 1 pound. So roughly 4 ounces on the bittering, roughly 4 ounces on the Whirlpool, and then 2 4-ounce dry hops. And what I do is I get abusive on the IBUs. You guys have had some of my more tame IBU beers, and honestly, the math isn't reality. I can make an 180 IBU beer. It's not really 180 IBUs, but Tinta says it is. So I started backing that down. I had the leftover of that into the Whirlpool. So instead of being a 4-ounce Whirlpool, it might be a 5, 6 ounce, 7 ounce Whirlpool. The dry hop, I always use screens because I can't stand trying to keg and getting hops stuck in tubes and in the connectors on my kegs and stuff. So I buy larger screens and use less hops in them. And again, do 2 separate dry hops, trying to get the best expression I can. And I've learned on that hops don't present the same. Some hops blow you up. We call them Sabro, we call them Idaho 7, we call them Vic Secret sometimes. Some hop,
like flavor wise, like they kind of like skew.
I love Idaho 7 so much. It's one of my favorite hops.
It's gorgeous.
But yeah, it can totally overwhelm things.
Yeah, it's gorgeous hop though. Oh, I love that hop. Some hops. I mean, all we used to talk about hops on is IBUs. How many IBUs to present, and now we talk about a lot more things than just IBUs, and we're not even talking about biotransformation. Today is double IPAs for us. I think you guys, we can talk about anything. Biotransformation is this whole other animal. And I'm not Scott Janish, guy's a genius, and he's done some great studies on hops.
Yeah.
But survivables, he's got records of it. I can tell you the hops I've used, and I can tell you what they show up in the beer. And I can use the exact same amount of hops. Yep. Forget about the bittering. Let's go to the Whirlpool. Let's go to dry hop. 2 different hops, 3 different hops, 10 different hops, 100 different hops. They show differently. Yeah. Some show up, some disappear. Yeah. Some take a while to show up. Some disappear in a little while. We had a conversation today. What was it? My brown has lost hops in about 4 weeks. So, but it was 4 weeks after I kegged it. Yeah. Most of my double IPAs don't hit a peak until about 4 weeks after I kegged them.
Interesting.
Okay.
They're like right there. And if they're not right there at 4 weeks, then that hop's not going to show up for me. It won't show up in 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Waiting longer.
When I started homebrewing in the early 90s, I remember like a year beforehand, my friend Wedge, who'd been playing around with brewing, showed me this brown paper sack of these brown nuggets. I'm like, why are you showing me your weed? So these are hops. And that was literally, you would buy hops in like a paper bag. And that's all anybody, you're right, all anybody knew back then was IBUs. And the amount of knowledge today about the oils and the hop creep and all the different characteristics of hops, nobody even had an inkling of this 30 years ago.
Yeah. No, not at all, man. Not at all. Which I guess it's hard just to like glean a couple nuggets of information on a double IPA because there's so many factors to it. It's complex and simple at the same time. Especially like you were saying, Travis, like how hops present themselves from even just batch to batch. You know what I mean? Like, there's also no guarantee that you're getting the same lot of the hops when you order them again 6 months later from more beer or whatever. It's just because things change, right?
I have to imagine that most of our viewers are homebrewers.
I mean,
we get shafted. The pros get the great stuff. We get good stuff.
We get a lot better than we used to, for sure.
By
I think
far.
that used to be like when I was
the brown paper
when I
bag
was buying hops at More Beer years and years ago. Like, that was the case more often than not. But I think as homebrew grew, the hop suppliers kind of threw us more bones than not. And for a while there, it was, I think, I don't know about even, but they do get first pick. But I also think that the knowledge from the farming side has grown exponentially as well.
Oh yeah,
picking times, and I think that these new varietals have helped the hop farmers to figure out, maybe to nail their harvesting times. And then you have a lot of these smaller farms doing these things, doing these experiments like Blue Lake, for example. And I think that can change the game too. So I think that I think we have way better access than we did 10 years ago.
But even that, I mean, you've been working with More Beer for how long?
I mean, when I was there, it was about 14 years or so.
So I would guarantee you that for 14 years, you've had better access to hops. Well, not all the 14 years, but I remember walking into my local homebrew shop, I won't mention, and they got their pound from wherever they got their pound from.
Oh God.
And it might have been a quality pound they got. And we were talking about nugs in the paper bag, and they were measuring them out on the countertop, putting in ounces in little plastic bags that weren't purged, weren't anything. And when I bought my hops, I was buying that 1 ounce that was transferred into this plastic bag that was then put in a refrigerator that at one point in time had been the pound or better that you were experiencing.
It's like Jamil talking about his cocaine scale and how it all gets stepped on every part of the process. And yet you're getting that stepped on 1 ounce from that pound bag that may not be good in the first place.
Yeah, not to make it the marketing show, but like that is one thing about watching More Beer kind of grow in the first 10 years or whatever, is that Olin was really, really picky about storing hops, because he's obviously a home brewer at heart, and he was really, really diehard. He was the first shop that I knew about that would nitrogen flush hops. And so even now, whenever they get the 44-pound bags of hops, they package the whole thing straight down.
The only shop I know about still. That's outstanding. Before
we would do like half of it, or because then they were sitting. But then as you learn and you store them and you cut them open, you smell them and you talk to other hop producers, you just do the whole thing and flush them, and you keep them in the walk-in. They're gonna be just as fine. You're gonna be treating them better. So it's that kind of thing, I guess, what I'm talking about. Is all that information kind of trickles out into all the other homebrew shops, and if they can, not everyone can buy in that bulk. They're gonna do it because it kind of elevates the end result for everybody.
Exactly.
And
Travis, do you find
like
that ALDC has any effect on hop flavor or aroma?
So I haven't used it enough to really have a good pattern on it. I just know that like I said, that one Strata beer, and that amazingly, I couldn't believe it got 41. I think was the higher of the two scores, and took a gold. And I'm like, I sent you a beer with diacetyl, and you gave me a gold medal. I feel nothing but pity for my competitors.
It's an ALDC. It's a good insurance policy. That's all it really is a lot of times.
Right.
If I brew with Strata, I'm using ALDC. It's the only time I ever had hop creep was ALDC. It was a Strata hop. It was a smash. So if I'm doing Strata, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about it. I mean, as good as More Beer is, they don't know how the hops were handled before them, and it's an attempt to give us tastier hops.
Right.
Don't kill it. Don't bring it as high. Well, that's great, except for somehow there's things in the hops that we didn't realize that cause additional fermentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we shoot ourselves in the foot.
There's one thing that I wanted to mention that Travis is doing a good job with on all the beers we've tasted of his.
Just one thing. Thank you.
No, it's just one critical component of a double IPA, especially a double IPA, is to get that dryness. And so, two things that you're doing to get it right is, I think, using a very healthy pitch of yeast that you've carefully harvested from a prior batch. You're gonna have plenty of yeast to work with. You know, it's done a good fermentation. You've, cared for it and taken out the best part of it for your next batch. But also the use of sugars to lighten up the body of the beer, especially when you're going to push it towards, 9.5%, 10%. That's you got to dry it out, and it's amazing. I'm not amazed that you were able to dry it as much as you did by listening to how you explain how you did it. You know what you're doing there, so that's a key point. You can't just like throw a packet of yeast in a batch, even if you use sugar, and hope that it's going to dry down to 10-10 even, especially some of the gravities you're hitting. You want to get down into that, this 10-10 or sub 10-10 if you can, for the proper dryness to let those hops really shine, because that's a big key. The drinkability, it shouldn't be a drinkable beer, but just look all the hops that are in and all the alcohol, but Pliny the Elder, you can have a pint of that, no problem, and you on another one a lot of times, and it's it's a very, very crushable beer that shouldn't be crushable. But,
I appreciate that.
I
appreciate a better score more, but I appreciate that also.
Drying it out is clutch, and gets lets the hops shine out over the top. Malts can get in the way, even if you do dry it out, as we explored too. But
so you guys tasted that, right? I mean,
love to taste just your straight double IPA. You're not a smash beer, not a specialty one, but just a dry, nice, like I designed it as a classic double IPA.
I finally made my double IPA.
Okay.
Because I've got 5+ good medals off of my smashes here and there, but exactly as you're pointing out, the rye, the brown, those are difficult. My white IPA, I got like a 45 on that one. I got a gold off of that one. Most of my double IPA recipes are smashes, different hops every time. Bam, another winner.
Yeah,
bam,
with the Simpsons Golden Promise, you can get away with that. Honestly,
it's a great malt, man. Yeah. It's a great malt,
and
it really is.
And the right hop, though. Like a Mosaic, you can, it's all kind of all around. It has a lot of character.
Brew one, Strata, trying to figure out the ones off the top of my head. I mean, it's been over several years here. I've done so many. I mean, if there's a hop, oh yeah, I want to make a smash out of that baby, and I'll enter it, because competition, local competition, and our local competitions here. I mean, you guys probably know Blue Bonnet, and I don't have a whole lot of medals of Blue Bonnet, but it's massive. But I got a handful at Cane Island Ailers. Used to throw Operation Fermentation, and we're talking 800, 900 beers entered. Dixie Cup, 1,000+ beers entered, and these are the ones where I've got the bulk of my golds and stuff from my double IPAs that were smashes. Got the right hop.
That's pretty cool. Dixie Cup is one of the giant competitions, and one of these days I'd love to go judge that. It's one of the legendary national comps.
Yeah.
They would love to hear that. Now they kind of broke, COVID broke a lot of things, and COVID kind of broke all the comps around Houston. They're coming back, and they would love to hear that. And Shar, trying to differentiate you gentlemen who love being on this show. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been a great time.
Yeah. If you want to get on the show, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Go to Brian at actually don't go there. Go to
come on by. It's okay.
Yahoo Mail or whatever. And then Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and send us your information. Brian will get you on the list. And that's it.
And I'll say, what? You have actual homebrew to send us?
Like, I don't understand what that. People still do that.
Cool.
If you made toast, send your toast in.
No, don't do that. Please don't just send your toast in.
No,
there's a form you can fill out. I don't think they read it though, but there's a form you can fill out. Tell them all about your beer.
Yeah. Make shit up in the notes, right? It's really toast.
Mm.
Yeah.
Bready.
That's it. We're gonna get out of here, everybody.
It's that time.
Okay. So Travis,
Thanks,
thanks
gents.
again, man. And if you guys want more in-depth talking about home brewing and brewing in general, be sure to hit up the boys over at Brew Strong, which is of course one of the plethora of shows on the Brewing Network that would love to be in your ears.
Maybe we could cross-pollinate and come on your show sometime too,
Yeah, man.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to talk about judging. You guys are great, honestly.
You guys will have a good time doing that together.
Let's plan that. Thanks.
All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again very much for participating in the show and listening to it. We really appreciate all the support you can give the Brewing Network. It means a lot, and I hope you're getting a little bit out of it. And don't forget, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. Thank you very much.